Jason Sosa managed to successfully defend his WBA Regular Super Featherweight Championship against Steven Smith, and what was a pretty entertaining fight, a pretty impressive fight, and definitely a fight that kind of woke a lot of people up after the bit of the snooze fest that was Luis Ortiz versus Malik Scott. It seemed like Steven Smith had slightly better boxing skills overall, a little bit better with the accuracy, but Jason Sosa's just overall power, his strength, his physicality was what really made the difference. Where anytime Smith landed, even though he was landing a little bit cleaner than Sosa, anytime Sosa landed, you could see the difference in power. You could see the thudding effect and the way that it moved Smith around the ring. Like he physically moved Smith around the ring and got reactions every time he was able to land a clean shot. And I mean, it was a pretty impressive fight. A lot of shifts and tide in the middle of the round. But overall, Sosa was able to control the pace of the fight more so, control the distance of the fight more so. He started to slow up a little bit in the mid rounds, in the mid to late rounds. Managed to pick it back up, of course, in the later rounds. And just a really a good fight, man. Just a good scrap. Definitely one that I would recommend a lot of people checking out. Maybe not even one time, but 2, 3, 4 times. It was a fun fight to watch. But Sosa's power was really the thing that made the difference. It was, he was able to hurt Smith a couple of different occasions, managed to drop him as well, dropped him in the second round. Wasn't able to have quite as much success in terms of, being able to drop him after that, of course, because he didn't. But Sosa, he still has the power. He proved against Javier Fortuna he was able to hold that power late enough to knock Fortuna out in a fight that he was losing, in a fight where he needed the knockout in order to win. He managed to pull it out the hat. And he managed to kind of overwhelm Smith in the later rounds of what was a pretty tough, gritty fight where he definitely needed to pull off those late rounds in order to secure a victory, especially after a bit of a controversy that happened in the very same card, which I'll mention in my next video, between Jimmy McDonough and Liborio Solis. But of course, this one is about Jason Sosa, managed to successfully defend his title in a pretty impressive fashion, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. Be interesting to see if possible rematch with Javier Fortuna, or if the WBA continues to at least make an attempt to get their act together in unifying their titles between the super and regular and interim champions. Make the matchup between Jason Sosa and the winner of the rematch between Jezreel Corrales and Takashi Uchiyama. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind Jason Sosa fighting any of the other champions, any of the other top contenders, but I really want the WBA to clean up this whole title situation. So to me, the first thing on the docket for Jason Sosa should be Corrales or Uchiyama. Should Uchiyama happen to snatch his belt back from Corrales. Either of those guys would make for a fantastic fight against Jason Sosa, and especially if Corrales manages to beat Uchiyama again, that'd be a fantastic fight for Corrales, and I think he's definitely a guy that's majorly under the radar in pretty much the entire sport, because the shocking second round knockout that he pulled off over Uchiyama was clearly by far and away the most impressive victory at 130 pounds. Probably the most impressive victory at that weight class for the past several years, really. Possibly even the past decade. I'd have to think really hard to think of just a better win for a guy at 130 over somebody. Just it was a big upset and just a really impressive manner of victory the way that he managed to do it. Just a total mugging, bum rushing destruction, and a skillful one at that. But Jason Sosa, of course, he definitely can't count him out in any fight. He has big power in both hands, good volume, good stamina, in spite of the fact that he got a little bit winded there in the mid rounds of the Steven Smith fight. But he's a tough operator, just a guy with good punch variety. And even though he's a little bit crude, a little bit raw sometimes, you still got to watch out, because as long as he has that volume, as long as he's not huffing and puffing, he's going to be a real problem to deal with. And he has a good chin as well. He proved that against Nicholas Walters, who hit him with a number of power shots, and he didn't fold. He didn't necessarily look especially hurt throughout most of that fight. Jason Sosa with a solid victory over Steven Smith managed to take care of business, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in the future. So that's pretty much all I got to say on this fight, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.